And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this celebration of Halloween. What can I say? I decided to do a little fun for this year. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. But today we have an interesting one. We're, of course, reviewing the new 4K version of Poltergeist. Both look at some of the scenes, but also, not surprisingly, but also the 4K quality. I'll try to show off as much as I can, but I also don't want to, get grabbed by YouTube. And let's face it, that would be a real problem, now wouldn't it? So much to do, so little time. My blacklight's working. Nice. Now, where's Scully? We'll figure out where he is later. But either way, folks, we got a movie to review. So I hope you enjoy this, because this is worth it, although there is one complaint. You'll see what I'm talking about. Well, you'll most likely hear it, so let's get on with the show. Alright, to start out, let's first do a little synopsis. The story starts out 4 years after the events of the first film. This time, the Freelings have fled all the way to Phoenix, Arizona. Yep, they're in Arizona. It's hot. Better get used to it. Great place, by the way. Fun, enjoyable, probably dangerous as hell, but who cares? But anyways, after a tragedy in their family, the poltergeists return. Tangina, along with this gentleman over here on your left, Taylor, are sent to defend them and to hopefully stop the poltergeist once and for all, especially as a new figure enters their lives. A man only being known as Reverend Henry Kane, who seems obsessed with Carol Ann. But what is really going on? Okay, that's the basics of the synopsis. If you don't want to know any more about the film or potential anything else, you can stop right now. I won't blame you. But let's get into it. So in this particular sequence, you can actually see a lot. This is the famous opening of the film. It's between Taylor here and I believe this other shaman who may be a deceased returning as a ghost. But either way, this is a really cool opening. The flames you can just make out are blue, believe it or not, but they actually started out as this nice glow of orange. And as you can see here, it's really nice, really well designed. This is actually a really good 4K transfer right here. The problem is this was from a company that was still getting used to their visual effects, Boss Film, who did, Ghostbusters. This is also a more expensive film than the first one, too, so there's a few things. But it's not ILM, which by this point was like one of the biggest. Now, I want to say a few things about the 4K. The quality is off the rocker. This is not a small TV I'm watching it on. The blue flames are like bright. They're vibrant. They were orange, the normal kind of flame color before in a previous sequence. And when he does this next thing, they're going to actually look red. But I need to show you one other thing real quick. First off, while this is pretty cool looking, it's not as good as, like what I'm seeing on the screen, but you can see how vibrant the blue is. It's kind of more washed out here, and you can see this smoke rising. On the 4K, you can actually make out little details in smoke and how it does stuff as the older shaman is basically telling Taylor what the heck is going on and what he's going to have to deal with. But as you look at like the old man and Taylor, you can also just sort of make out this huge around them, the matte paintings and so forth that were used. It's about the only real thing that drags this film down. But again, it just tells you a lot. Now, take a look at this. And like I was saying, the flames take on another color. They go red here. Now, I remember this film all the way back from 1986. Yes, I'm old. And every other time I've seen the movie has either been on cable, television, VHS, DVD, and then eventually Blu-ray. And I never, in like more recent years, even remembered them being red because my brain just didn't hit in. but in 4K, these colors pop like crazy. And I've noticed when I went back to some of the earlier versions, even like the DVD, they're there too. But the thing is, you have to look for them. You really have to look for them. In the 4K copy, they pop. It's so incredible, the amount of detail that is in this film. It's amazing. And it just blows me away. And this one sequence was the first thing that made me go, oh, wow, I didn't notice that in any other versions that I've watched. All the detail work, of course, the stuff that sticks out like a sore thumb in the, because of the visual effects techniques used, stick out like a sore thumb, but that's like understandable. The film really does a pretty good job of just displaying this, and it does very good. This is a scene where the smoke comes in to aid Taylor in his journey. He's a shaman, and the real actor, Will Sampson, he is a shaman in real life. And a little something we're going to get into in the next couple of bit, you'll understand one of the stories I'm about to say. This film was amazing. It was incredible. And remember, we're like minutes in, and it already is like, doing stuff. This is back in the day where you have to remember they didn't have time to mess around or do anything like that. They had to get the point across as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, this film did go through a lot of problems. I mean, it's just incredible. Okay, right before I get to that scene I was talking about, I did want to show off this one. This is a big matte painting. It's just incredible, especially with all the details. You can actually make out, just so much. There's a river going behind that one. You can actually just make out in the shot. And the cool part is you can actually see the river actually moving. That is just how incredible they did this shot. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did, and it was just so incredible. And it's one of the little just incredible things about this film, and it looks so incredibly good. There's nothing that's like, it sticks out like a sore thumb. It just shows how good you can do stuff when you know what you're doing. And it's also a gliding shot. It's going outwards. Taylor's getting smaller. Really nice setup. Works really good. Especially when you contrast it to this next sequence. And we get our first little look at Cuesta Verde, or what's left of it. And as you can see here, there's like only on one side of the street really any kind of people still living here. And you just see for sale, realty, everywhere. Look, there's even a freaking tumbleweed going through the sequence. This neighborhood is like, no, I don't want to live here. There's, dead people under the ground. And it just continues to get worse. And of course, here's the famous "You are now entering Cuesta Verde" sign, where dreams come true. Yeah, if you're dead and you want to take somebody's kid, look at that, for sale. It's like, this just gets more, it basically starts to look a lot more like an abandoned section, or for that matter, like, this place belongs in a Fallout video game, for crying out loud. And it just keeps getting worse. See? Right there. Screams Fallout. I mean, I'm surprised there's not a dead body lying on the ground. That's how insane this is, but it tells you a lot. And it's just incredible. And remember, this isn't even the worst part of this entire sequence. Eventually, we make it in to where the Freeling's house is, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And as you can see here, they really did a good job of recreating, what's left of the Freeling's home, the walk up and stuff. It's not perfect, but it's incredibly accurate, and you can see just how much damage has been done to this to this property. I mean, look, even parts of the driveway are like gone. I mean, this is apocalyptic, but it gives you an idea on just what to expect. So, yeah, holy crap. And then, of course, we go into like this tomb that's underneath the old cemetery, where there's all these skeletons in this tomb for no apparent reason. No marked graves. Here's a really scary thing, though. This is also rumored for the first film, but for the second film, it was actually confirmed by many people that some of the producers actually used real um, human cadavers, actual corpses, for some of these sequences. Some of these are not plastic skeletons or made up in a Halloween shop or anything. These are real people that are decomposing on the ground. I'm pretty sure there's no way in hell you're going to get away with this now in modern filmmaking, especially after the virus that shall not be named. But it's kind of terrifying. I mean, but you're like, oh come on, they're just a bunch of skeletons. Except Will Sampson Taylor. There was reports this entire area was like having freaky stuff. They couldn't shoot anything. The actors were constantly leaving. They're like, no, man, there's something wrong in there. And he had to go in and perform some kind of exorcism or cleansing rite. He literally, it was reported one person who heard him say this, he was like sitting in a chair looking at it. They didn't know if he was in character or not, but he's an actual real shaman. And he's like, skeletons, not happy. I'm with him. I wouldn't want to be there. If I was dead, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be immortalized on film as a dead body, but I'm not happy about this. You didn't even give me a damn cigar before you put me here. I would be pissed too. And it's like, like, this can't possibly get any worse, can it? Okay, obviously it can. It literally can get worse. My God.
Are you lost, sweetheart? Are you afraid, honey? Well, why don't you come with me?
And here we are meeting Julian Beck, the man who plays Reverend Henry Kane. Many would consider him probably the breakout role of the entire film, and to be fair, if this guy wasn't here, I don't think this film would be anywhere near as good as people like to say it is. I'm not kidding. This guy is terrifying in this film. And from what I understand, he was actually a very nice guy. But unfortunately, fate was not kind to him at this time. He was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and it was basically eating him alive. And as you can see, even in this sequence, this poor guy is like, he is like wasting away. And this actually got worse during the production. He died before they could finish. And in fact, there were rumored to be several sequences he would have been in at the end of the film that he unfortunately never got to shoot because he unfortunately passed away. There's actually some pictures and a few documentaries and stuff showing him in on a hospital bed, basically wasting away, unfortunately. And they also had to put him under a pretty good amount of makeup at times. It was even said in some of the commentaries, just so he would look more alive. And the poor guy is just wasting away. And yet, I think this actually helped him. He knew he was dying. He knew this was going to be like the last film he was going to be in. And he ate it up. He used whatever he had, whatever he could to make this role. And this particular sequence isn't even, to be fair, the best part of the film with him in it. He's like in, I forget how many sequences, but it's like not many, but when he's on screen, this guy is the focus. Everything is about him. He is terrifying. Okay, this guy is like terrifying. Even when he's not on screen, we hear people talking about him. They're like, that was him. Okay, and this is also, by the way, a character returning from the first film in many ways. I won't spoil how that happens, but when you get to Tangina coming to Diane and reveals a little bit about this guy's backstory, it it gets more terrifying, especially when you realize who this dude was in real life. And when you go back to look at Poltergeist 1, when you see certain ghosts, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Basically, I'll probably say more at the end of the video real quick before we do anything else. But this dude is basically like the breakout star of this film. I mean, oh my God. And not just his death, but also a few other things that happened during the production unfortunately changed things. The production just didn't have a control over it. So things, if you read like the book or a few other illustrations and stuff or things, you'll realize how different they are. For example, I have the novel now, and Robbie was originally supposed to be attacked by bees. And that didn't happen because the real actor has a massive, potentially lethal reaction to bee stings. It's not a joke, people have it. So they changed it to the whole braces things, but it's still in the book. Even his confrontation at the end, plus unfortunately other actors couldn't be in the film due to other commitments or even sometimes medical issues, and their whole story set for them too, like Dr. Lush from the original film and stuff. But this was the breakout actor, and this isn't even his best performance in the film. This is just him being like setting up his character, this whole sequence. And this is a real mall, by the way, in California that they shot at, and it's like I've never seen this mall. And somebody recently did a tour of it in its modern form, and like you can kind of tell it's still the same mall, but I think it looks better in this movie than it does in present day. That's pretty impressive. But let's get to the sequence I'm talking about so you can understand, as I don't want this video to be super long.
God is in his holy tent. Earthly thoughts be silent now, while with reverence we ascend, and his presence bow.
This is by far probably the most legendary scene with Julian Beck in this film. Now, I paused it here real quick so you can take a look at what's going on. They're underneath the thing. It's raining. There's water coming down. It's bright daylight. By the way, they said this was an accident. They originally wanted it to be overcast, but the the bright sunlight and all this rain coming down actually made this scene better, in my opinion. And they felt it, was a happy little accident. But notice something. His clothing is soaked. You can literally see the water coming off the hat that he's wearing. He's got this like Amish from hell kind of look. It's incredible. And then we get this. And then in this sequence, take a look. The clothing is dry. He is completely dry. He was just soaking wet, now he's dry. I get it, movie making, but for this sequence, it actually makes him more terrifying. Notice also that he looks a little bit more dead, a little bit more decayed almost. Again, it's unfortunately the cancer eating the actor alive, but he is literally just, making this film his own. And this isn't even the best sequence. It's just started with him. I mean, this is literally this entire area, but it goes through so many areas. And this opening right here, this isn't even the best. But I love how he's actually showing concern for Carol Ann, but also wanting. He wants her. And yet, he's conniving. He's patient. It's kind of terrifying.
And preyed upon by charlatans with fake magic and false solutions. Now, I don't expect you to believe me now, but let me come in and talk to you about it.
And again, here he is looking even more decayed, even more dead. He's got this skeleton-like appearance here. And this all goes into making this character just so much better. This, I think, was the scene where he was just like, he's having fun. He's embracing it. He's giving so many performances. He's chewing up the scenery. And Kane is becoming like this force. Now remember, this isn't like most modern movies. He's not some monster. He's not, transforming into some headed thing. You're not fighting the devil. You're not blowing shit up. There's no CGI every 5 seconds. It's just this actor who's using even this terrible condition to allow him to play a role and to make it his own. Look at him. He's literally like, he's doing this closed fist thing where he's like, he's got a strong hold on your family. And the cadence of his voice is just perfect. This is why many people say this character of Reverend Henry Kane is one of the most terrifying creatures, beings, souls, men in film. There's a reason that some people have compared him to Freddy Krueger, even almost. Freddy's, burnt. He's in the dream realm. This dude can be in your nightmares. He can be when you're awake, when you're asleep, when you're most vulnerable, but he's also manipulative. And the thing is, he does all this stuff, and it just gets worse and worse. And I want to play one more clip showing that off so you can kind of understand how incredibly dangerous this character is, and also how, like, just the things he say, because they come back to, like, totally just shock the hell out of you.
Cause I'm smart. And I'm your friend. And I know what you are thinking.
See what I mean? This is a terrifying character. He's like getting into Steve's head. And it's just the things. He says, I'm smart. I know what you're thinking. And I'm your friend. It's that kind of terrifying character that can make any film villain come through like nothing you've ever seen before. Sure, Freddy's terrifying. Sure, Michael and Jason are these slasher killers. But how often do you have to go, and literally fight them with your intelligence, with your desire to survive? The answer is not very often, and yet this guy is terrifying just being who he is, just looking at you. And there are sequences that keep making this better. At one point, you see close up on both Steve and Kane's eyes as they look at each other and also look into the house and all this other stuff. And you have to remember, this is all taking place on this porch. The only thing keeping him out right now is Steve not opening that door and a screen door. You can see the mesh on film. And this really comes through in the 4K because it's not just Steve, it's also Kane. And it's terrifying because of that. And he just works and works at it. This is a character that is manipulative, incredible. I mean, you can literally see even the stress on Greg T. Nelson's face, and you realize, I don't think he's acting. I think he's reacting to some of this. I mean, this dude is terrifying. And I think his condition was getting worse, so they couldn't even make him look more alive anymore at a certain point. And he really starts to take on like a skeleton appearance even more. And all the while he's talking, moving, just being nice, just being stuff. And it's only a little later on that he starts to get finally a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more demanding. And you see it. And it works so well in this sequence. This one sequence alone is why this movie not only works, but if it did not have Julian Beck as Reverend Henry Kane, I don't think this film would be a good film at all. That's terrifying when you realize how strong your villain actually is. He doesn't need to be, certain other things. He doesn't even need to be a Thanos. This guy is just a mental threat. This would explain why also people fell in love and also were afraid of, like Hannibal Lecter. He's intelligent. He's manipulative, but he's also got this like honor about him. Kane is just straight out manipulative, and he's cunning, and yet in another way he's also patient. That's terrifying. You do not want a character who's patient, because they'll wait, they'll stalk you, they'll find your weakness. Just like in the first film when Tangina says, don't give it any more help, referring to this crazy dude, it knows too much already. Knowledge is power, and that is on display right here in this one sequence. I mean, it makes him terrifying. And again, he just becomes more of a threat, looking more dead. This is just a performance of a lifetime, mainly because he knew this is his last performance. He's going all in. and terrifying character. Beck makes the film. There's no other way to describe it. I wish in one of my earlier previews I had really dove into this character and everything, but it's amazing. And the thing is, I also don't want to spoil too much more in case you actually want to see this movie. Go and watch it. You're going to enjoy it. Now, to unfortunately get into the one downside of this film, the with this 4K version. Visually, this film is stunning, beautiful, well done. The colors pop. I don't know how much more they could have done to restore it or anything else. They literally took this from an actual film negative, so the film's in good shape, thank God, and it's just shocking. I mean, the detail. Audio is where we have the problem. I'm not kidding. I mean, I wish I was joking. The DTS 5.1 Master Track, which is pretty much on almost all the Blu-ray versions of this film, I actually have 3. There's a Blu-ray version of this film on this 2-disc set. There's another one that I bought from the earlier collector's edition, and an earlier one that I picked up when I got Poltergeist 3. We don't talk about that movie, but, you know. But still, you know, that track is beautiful. There are sequences where you can hear everything around you. This film, however, comes with a 7.1 Dolby Atmos track. And I want to say this sequence is where my first problem with the Atmos track comes in. Well, there's a couple. I don't know who the hell did the mixing for this film in the 7.1, but they suck. They were terrible. Things are too loud. And unfortunately, this sequence right here is like one of the most important sequences in the whole film. And on the Atmos track, you almost cannot hear this. I had to turn my center speaker up in volume to be able to hear the dialogue because it's so important during this sequence. Then there's a few other choices in how some of the stuff is represented. Some of the stuff going around the room from the surround sound is okay, but it's really loud and it interferes with dialogue sequences. And then there's a sequence here at the end where he literally slams his hand right before he leaves on the screen door, screaming, "You're all gonna die!" Which, by the way, is like terrifying. They even used it in the trailer. And they re-put it in when Steve finally figures out, you know, the ghosts are after his daughter, and he literally screams out, "Leave us the hell alone," sits in his chair, and is literally thrown across the room. And originally it was just this cool sound effect of him being thrown, this light and stuff. And then you would see this spectral of this dude right here literally coming out of the chair as a ghost form and then vanishing. And you would hear him talk. But they added the part of, you know, screaming, "You're all gonna die," in on the freaking Atmos track. And I'm like, that's not in the film. I viewed every version of this film from the DVD to the Blu-rays and stuff, and it's not there. I don't remember it there in even when I saw this film in theaters, which in my case was a drive-in. That is the only track I absolutely hate. The DTS track is fine. Yeah, it may not be the loudest thing in the world, but it's crystal clear. It's beautiful. Mixed with the 4K visuals here, both on this and even the other Blu-ray disc that comes with this is in freaking beautiful condition too, so I would still recommend it. The Atmos track, unless you actually have a really good Atmos system and hopefully the dialogue in the sequence is better, but I doubt it, I would not recommend it. It's like, why? Why would you do that? It feels like a disaster zone for this film. I'm not going to lie. They could have done so much better. Oh my God, I hate that. But in terms of the 4K, the colors are brighter. I can see so much more details. It's insane. This sequence alone is like even more terrifying because of it. So guys, like and subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and wait for my next video, and happy Halloween. I'll see you later. Don't let Cain come and visit you. Okay? God is in